Okay, guys, it's Prediction Friday, and if you're like me, you cannot wait to see the Packers back in action Sunday night against the Broncos. It's only been the bye week, but it feels like forever since I've seen Packer football. Packers have a big test ahead of them. The Broncos are going to be indisputably the best defense that the Packers have come up against. And the Packers offense, up until the bye, did not necessarily show what we would have expected out of Aaron Rodgers and company. Looking to get Devontae Adams back, Eddie Lacy healthy. This could be a good game for the offense to take off. Although, if you're like me and you're making predictions at this time, by the way, feel free to throw your predictions on the Facebook fan page. Roll them on down. We'll try to give shout-outs after the game if you get them right or very close. But as far as I'm concerned, I've been kind of looking for the Packers offense to have this breakout game where they really get it together, the defense gets together, special teams has been good. I thought against the Chargers was the best chance for the Packers offense to do that, and they really didn't get it done at that time. They were good, scoring close to 30 points, but they were not dominant, and they certainly did not blow the Chargers out like I thought we should. The Chargers' weakness was their offensive line. I thought our defensive line would do better than they did. Phillip Rivers had a pretty good day, so we will see how that equates to a Broncos offensive line that is also in flux and a weakness for the team. Now, if I were going to try to do predictions, I don't think this is the game that you think that the Packers offense is going to suddenly drop, 35 points on somebody. That is not what the Denver defense allows. I don't expect that to change unless this bye week and getting a few guys healthy really makes a difference. I mean, I hope it does. But I just don't think that this is a game in which we can expect the Packers offense to suddenly go well over 30 points. I believe we'll do that if the Packers defense scores with a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Then I think we may get into that 30-point range. Packers been averaging, upper side of in the top of the 20s, and not in the 30s like last year. And certainly the Denver game is not one where I would expect we would do that. So, Packers have to play at Denver. That makes it even more difficult. Did a little post on the altitude. I think that's an interesting advantage that the Broncos have. I think the Packers are doing a good job of managing it. And I think Green Bay is going to do just fine. I think our offense, I've got this feeling that Eddie Lacy has a chip on his shoulder with all the talk about him being heavier than he was as a rookie. Basically, Eddie Lacy was hurt, and when you're a running back and you have an ankle injury, it's hard to play running back. I'm looking for him, especially with James Starks and the hip issue. I imagine Starks will be active and ready to play and play some snaps, but I feel like we're going to see a flip-flop in the running backs where Starks was really carrying the load early in the season. I feel like Eddie Lacy is going to carry the load in this game against the Broncos. I expect him to have about 85 yards, maybe a touchdown in there, and that's going to be important. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to show that he is the number one back on this team, even though James Starks has done a phenomenal job. The guy looks like he could start on many teams. But I think that's great. I think it's great that might be some motivation for Lacy to get out there and have a good game. So I think, okay, let's say we got a touchdown on the ground. I believe that we're good for 2 through the air. Personally, my breakout player, I don't know if it's really a breakout player, but I think Richard Rodgers is going to have a lot to say in this game. I think he's going to have a touchdown. I think the Broncos linebackers in coverage against receivers and tight ends is going to be their weakness, and I think that is what the Packers need to exploit in this game. And I think if they do so, Richard Rodgers could have one of these games in which he just makes a few key catches, gets himself a touchdown, but really becomes a difference maker. So he's my breakout player. I know there have been others mentioned. I think Eddie Lacy is one. Jeff Hayes, our own Jeff Hayes, is looking for Eddie Lacy to have a great game. I agree, that could be. For me, breakout game for him is 85 yards and a touchdown, as opposed to maybe Jeff's thinking over 100. He's going to break 100, have a touchdown and a couple key runs. Not sure about that, but I'll say he's going to have a good game. All right, so if we've got Rodgers with a touchdown, we got one touchdown on the ground that could be Starks or Lacy, I think. I would expect it to be Lacy in this game. I just really think that the Packers are going to lean on him. Okay, so that's 2. That's 14 points. I think we're going to get 1 through the air. I'm going to give that to James Jones. The guy has just been money, and I cannot forget when James Jones played. Brett Favre was still quarterback at the time and had that amazing touchdown run at Denver many years ago. I didn't look up when it was, so I don't remember exactly what year that was, but it's got to be around 2008-ish. So I think James Jones gets 1. I would love to see Randall Cobb break out in this game. I think it's possible. I'm so glad he had a chance to get healthy, and I think he may play a key role in this game, possibly getting us in field goal range. I think the Packers put 21 on the board with touchdowns, and I think we get in the red zone twice at least. Mason Crosby back in Colorado is going to be money. I think we rely on him for 2. That's 6 more points on top of the 21. Don't expect us to be going for 2-point conversions. So that's 27 Packers, and that leaves the question, how many points will Denver score against the Packers at home? And they have been finding ways to get in the end zone. Peyton Manning has been playing really bad in a lot of ways. When Peyton Manning can't step into his throws, he is nothing like what he used to be when he was younger. When he can step into a throw, he throws just like the Peyton Manning of old. He's accurate, he's savvy, he knows how to lead a receiver, he knows how to throw a receiver open, and he can score points. And they've done enough to be undefeated up to this point. Their competition, I don't think, has been anything near what the Packers have run into. So I think, and with the Packers defense, and I think Mike Daniels is going to have a great game. I think the Packers defense is going to make it very difficult for Peyton Manning to step into his throws. And so therefore, I think Peyton Manning is going to have a rough time with the Green Bay defense. So that said, again, they've been finding a way to win. I think that the problem is they don't have a running back that's a go-to guy. I think Green Bay is going to have very little to concern themselves with. Although your first priority still has to be to stop the run. But it's, when we play the Vikings, when we play the Bears, when we play, Marshawn Lynch and the Seahawks, the Packers' first priority is to stop Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, Adrian Peterson. Packers don't have to think that way per se in this game. I think they're going to look to stop the run early, but and then watch for the bubble screens, Peyton Manning to roll out like he did against the Browns, but at that point, Green Bay is going to, I think, have its way with a very shaky Denver offensive line and a Peyton Manning that no longer can deliver the ball the way he did when he was younger if he can't step into it. If we can keep Peyton Manning off balance, we are going to really cause problems for this Broncos offense. I think the Broncos get 17, which means the Packers once again win by double digits, 27-17 in this game. I see a Browns team. I went through the game against the Browns. Browns could have won that game. And when the Packers step on the field, they are a different beast altogether than the Browns, both offensively and defensively and on special teams. I think the special teams are going to give us good enough field position to get that point total right up where we're used to seeing it so far this year. Not necessarily above 30, but I'm looking at 27 points. So let me know what your prediction is for this game. Once again, I would love to see this be the breakout game where the Green Bay Packer offense really does the kind of things that we think they can do to opposing defenses. I just don't think the Denver Broncos are the team that we're going to be able to do it again. However, I will say this. If the Packers do really rack up the 30-plus, 35, 38 against the Denver Bronco defense, I think this is a team that then, in that case, will show that they are truly the match and the possibly the one and only match for the Patriots in the AFC. Green Bay beat the Patriots last year. Not much has changed, but the Patriots are just going crazy right now. And I think the Packers are the team that can beat them, but they're going to have a game like this, kind of a marquee game against a really good defense where the offense still is able to score over 13 points. Would love to see it happen. Not going to predict it, but boy, you can bet, like every other Packer fan out in Packer Nation, I'm going to be rooting for it. So with that said, let's send it over to JR and see what his prediction is for Sunday night, Packers versus Broncos.
Welcome back from the bye week. Ready for a big matchup between the Packers and the Broncos in prime time. I expect that this will be a real challenge for the Packer offense. The Broncos defense has been playing very well. In fact, they've been really keeping Denver in games and giving them the opportunity to win the 6 games that they've posted so far. I think, last week, the Packer offense, a lot of people were predicting last week would be the week that it would really bounce back and become the offense that we really expected going into this season. And it really didn't happen. I think it partially happened. We generated a lot of yards on the ground early on, but as soon as they started stacking the box a little bit, we went away from the run, and it just kind of went downhill from there. We really struggled to maintain drives. I think against the Broncos, the run will also be effective, which is good news with both Lacey and Starks coming off bye week rest periods, where neither of them are really injured per se, but both of them were banged up. So I kind of expect the run to work real well. Of course, if we can get Devontae Adams back on the field, I think that would take our passing game up a notch, and I really think this is the week that the Packers will get their offense back on track. And I would expect they're going to score upwards to 30 points. As far as Denver's offense against our Packer defense has been doing quite well. Denver has really looked ugly on offense. If you look at if you compare the two teams and their 6-0 records, there really was only one game where the Packers had a close game, what I would call a close game, one score, and that was against the Chargers. The Broncos, on the other hand, of their 6 wins, 5 of them have been close games. Any one of those games could have gone the other way, and I think this game will go the other way for the Broncos. I think this is going to be a loss for them. In fact, they've had great trouble in the red zone. Manning has looked ugly. A lot of that is his receivers dropping passes. A lot of that is his receivers running improper routes. But some of that is just flat ugly passes by Peyton Manning, which is really uncharacteristic of him. If he gets back in stride, he could be dangerous, but just the way I've seen him play recently, it doesn't look like there's any hope in the foreseeable future of him getting back on strides. He's just not looking good on the field. And their run game has not been dominating. Really what's kept them in games has been that defense and the multiple pick sixes they've mustered. So I don't expect that even when they get down in red zone territory that they're going to give our defense a whole lot of difficulty. I would expect that they're going to get some field goals on the board, and they're going to come out with about 12 points. And that's my prediction for this game is 30-12 win by the Packers, and we go 7-0.